What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jerome Jones, and this is the RPO College Football Podcast, your favorite college football podcast. I'm here as your humble host. I got my man, the myth, the legend. You already know who he is, Mr. Ray Roberts. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
I'm great. We are going to wrap up the draft. It's been about 3 weeks now that the draft been here. It's kind of over. They got out of rookie mini camps, so some go into OTAs right now. But we want to talk about the last part of the draft, the last day 3. I'm super excited to be talking about this because this is where I feel like day 3 is where you build the core of your team. Like the first round pick is you get the generation talent if you can. The day 2 you get quality starters, but day 3 is where you get the meat and potatoes of your team. You get the depth, you get some surprise players that rise up and become starters. Ray, what do you think about day 3? How do you feel about day 3?
I feel kind of the same way you do. You kind of feel at the end of your roster, your special teams guys. I mean, that's where, like, again, if you can get a guy in the 4th and 5th round that maybe you thought was a second or third round talent, that's why I always go back to I liked it over the weekend better. I did. I mean, it's fine. I love the draft, but I actually liked it better Saturday and Sunday because to me, you did the first 3 rounds on Saturday, and then on Sunday you could look and say, "Yo, who slipped out of the first 3 rounds? Let me jump up and move up and get some of these guys."
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Yeah, I no matter what, it's the draft. I'm gonna love it no matter what. But I do think if you had Saturday and Sunday, it would be a little bit better. But then again, teams won't have as much time to if it's only 2 days instead of 3 days. So I get that point too.
See, but to me, that means that after Saturday, you got to do your homework a little bit better, and that will leave you with a better opportunity to get better players if you know what you're doing. So
that's true. But let's talk about it, Ray. We're gonna talk about the day 3 picks of 2021 draft. I'm gonna start off actually because I usually don't start off, but I'm gonna allow myself to start off this time. And we're gonna go with the first team on my list, and my first team will be the Atlanta Falcons. Now, as some people may already know, I just moved to Atlanta. I'm not a Falcons fan at all, but I do like their day 3 picks, and I want to explain why. One is because they got a bunch of picks. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks in day 3. So that right there tells you a lot. But I feel like they got a lot of value out of those picks. The number 1, my guy from Michigan, Jalen Mayfield, of quality offensive tackle. Offensive tackle that that some people thought could have been a day 1 pick. They got him day 3, round 3. Number 4, they got Darren Hall. Another 4th round pick, they got Drew Dalman. A 5th round pick, they got Jaquan Graham, a guy that we interviewed from Inside the Hatches. I think he's a quality rotational defensive end. This name's gonna kill me. And Ande Tukumbo. Ogundeji.
Gunday. Yeah, he went to Notre Dame. Yes, I know him.
Yeah.
Yes.
That name. And then they got Avery Williams, a good returner. I think he's gonna be a very excellent returner for those guys. A solid defensive back. They actually was trying him out at different positions, running back, wide receiver as well. So I think he can be somebody that you can kind of plug and play, use some gadget plays with him. And then my guy, one of my favorite interviews from Inside the Hatches, Frank Darby, wide receiver that we've seen at the Senior Bowl, tall, lengthy guy. He's going to be a great slot guy for them, or a rotational piece in there. I think, with his personality itself is just going to really shine out for you guys. So if you don't know him as a football player, please check him out as a person, because he's a very energetic person. He loves the game of football. You can really tell, and he's ready to go. So definitely check him out. Ray, what do you think about the Falcons draft?
I thought they had a solid draft. They're not on one of my teams. You gave the 3rd round. That's not technically a day 3 pick.
Oh, I was doing day 3, all of day 3.
Yeah, all of day 3 doesn't include round 3. Day 2.
You're right. I am sorry. You're right. So I still do
the only reason I says because I didn't include the 3rd round in these guys. That's all.
No, you're right. I included the 3rd round. I messed up on that, but yes.
No, I thought Atlanta had a solid draft.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like their day 3 guys as much. I think Avery Williams is a solid player. Mm-hmm. I had him more of a 6th or 7th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go there. But again, I think Atlanta. I think next week we're going to go over what we thought their whole drafts were like. So I'm not going to go too crazy. But I'll preface it by saying I think Atlanta had a solid draft. Anytime you can get Kyle Pitts and Richie Grant in day 1, that's a good in the first 2 rounds, that's a solid draft. So
yeah, definitely. All right, Ray, give me your team that you like.
I had Carolina. I had they got Chuba Hubbard. Now we all talked about how Chuba Hubbard struggled this year, didn't have anywhere near as good a year as he did last year. But to me, to get him in the 4th round with his upside and his talent, again, if you put him in the right system or a one cut, let him get downhill and use his speed as he gets in your secondary, he's going to be a pretty good player, especially in the 4th round. So I like that pick. I like Davian Dixon from Iowa. I had him more of a 3rd or a 4th round pick. And a lot of the players are going to be obviously based on where I thought they should go. And some of them are going to be like scheme fit. But I think that that's why I like Carolina. They did a good job of scheme fitting guys. They took Keith Taylor, the cornerback from Washington, in the 5th round. Who I had more of a beginning of the 4th round player. I liked him that pick a lot. I like Deontay Brown, the guard from Alabama, who's a big guy who will give you some versatility. He can play both guard spots, and maybe move him inside and let him play some center if he can handle that for you. They got Shi Smith in the 6th round, who I had as a 4th or 5th round guy, a guy who come in and do some stuff for you out of the slot, a guy I kind of liked a lot. Thomas Fletcher, who was a long snapper, who was probably the only pick in the round that I didn't like because I don't like taking special teamers. If you want to jump on him in round 7, I've completely changed what I feel about that. If you get him in the 7th round, you're getting a guy that could probably help your team, so that's fine. But to take him in the 6th round, I thought was probably not a great pick.
For me, I think I didn't mean to cut you off, Ray, but me, special teams, if you see a very special kicker or a special punter, definitely get them in the highest I'll go 6th round. But any type of long snapper, I will never draft a long snapper. Never. I'm sorry, unless he can do versatile things. But
I mean, I know Miami took a long snapper last year, and they cut their other long snapper, and the whole play for Miami the thing about long snappers is once you get one in, they usually stay around for a long time. Yeah, so again, that is the reason why I still don't like the pick, but he is probably a guy who will be on the roster come season starting. So, and then my last one is Phil Hoskins. Again, this is a guy who I didn't think he was a great player, but I think schematically he fits what Carolina wants. They want their tacklers to be gap space eaters, and I think he could do that for you. So,
definitely. All right, yeah, I like their draft too. Let me give you one, Ray, and I think this team you already had on your list, so I might be stealing your team. But I'm gonna say the Bears right here. In the first, they didn't have a 4th round pick, but they had a lot of back end picks. They had a 5th round, 3, 6, and 1, 7. One of them being Larry Borom, offensive lineman. They got Khalil Herbert, a guy that I like from Virginia Tech. Des Newman, wide receiver from UNC. Thomas Graham, and
Kyra Tonga from BYU.
Yeah. So I actually like their picks. They had a lot of solid guys in there that can come in and contribute, especially Khalil Herbert. I really like him. I think he's going to be a good contributor for those running backs, and somebody can pair up with what's their starting running back? I forgot his name. But
Montgomery.
Yeah, David Montgomery. He'd be a good addition with David Montgomery as a spell guy. What do you think about the Bears, right?
I had the Bears as my second. I'm giving this team second because I kind of went alphabetically. It's not that I like any one. I just I picked 7 teams that I thought did well in day 3. So I had Chicago as one of them. Like you said, Larry Barron, he's an offensive guard who I had as a early 5th round pick. They got him in the they got him like in the 5th round, but towards the latter end of it. I like him again. I think he's schematically a guy who can go in there and do some nice things for the Bears. They took Khalil Herbert, who I had as a 4th round running back, and they got him in the 6th round. Like, to me, honestly, that's one of the steals of day 3, without a doubt. I mean, I think I had my running backs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where the kid that the Eagles drafted there. I like him a lot, but I like Khalil Herbert right after that as far as anybody else left on the board. And to get him, like you said, to team up with David Montgomery, I think that's a great pick. I really do. Right. And I like Daz Newsome. I think he can do some nice things for you as a slot receiver right now. Probably once he needs to improve his upper body strength a little bit, get off the line of scrimmage. But that's why I would see him playing more in the slot right now. You can line him up against hopefully a safety, maybe move him and put him in motion, do some things with him. I think he's a good football player. I like Thomas Graham, the cornerback from Oregon, especially a guy who's going to be a really good special teams player for you right now. And that's what I look to me when I look at day 3, especially like 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. I look at guys that can help out my special teams. If I'm projecting them as starters, that's fine. That probably means my roster is not that good to begin with. So I always look at them as guys that can come in and help out on special teams. And number 5, I have Kyra Tonga. I like him. I think he's a good, solid, maybe a 0 or a 1-tech defensive tackle who can do some nice things for you.
Definitely. I agree, Ray. I think that there are some great guys in here, and you pointed them out. Thomas Graham, I thought he was going to get drafted a little bit higher than he did, to be honest. So to get him in the 6th round was great. And to touch on the Daz Newsome pick, I think that the slot receiver they have him now, I'm forgetting his name right now, but he was kind of a troublesome last year. So if he keeps acting up, they got somebody that can potentially replace him in Daz Newsome. So I love their draft, Ray.
I do. I thought they had a pretty good draft too. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit more next week. But I thought the Bears, especially moving up and taking a quarterback, I think the Bears had a very good draft, and I love Khalil Herbert. So I think that was a great pick.
Totally agree. Well, I wanted to say, guys, we have some people in here, a pretty good audience in here. So first and foremost, thank you guys for checking us out. We do appreciate you being in here. If you are in here, this is an interactive podcast. So if you have any questions, if you want us to talk about a team's draft in day 3, or you have any other general questions, please just put it in the chat room. We'll definitely try to answer them for you as well. So, Ray, I'm going to give you another team that I thought was really good in day 3, and that would be the Denver Broncos. To get Caden Stearns, safety, Jamar Jackson, Seth Williams, Kerry Vincent Jr., who I actually wanted the Eagles to get, Jonathan Cooper from Ohio State, and Marquise Spencer. Ray, I thought that was excellent back in the draft. Ray, what do you think about that?
I like Denver, what Denver did throughout the whole draft, really. I thought maybe – I mean, I don't want to get into what we talked about earlier. I thought that maybe they would take a quarterback earlier there, but they didn't. But I think they had a nice, solid day for draft. They kind of like just fell out of my top 7. I would have had them like right after them guys. So, you know.
Nice. All right, Ray, give us one of yours.
Okay, my 3rd team is the Giants. I know you're not going to be – they only had 3 picks, but they got Ellerson Smith, the edge from yeah. They got Gary Brightwell, the running back from Arizona, who I think that I'm not a crazy about him, but I think he's a one-cut guy who can help them out a little bit. And they got Rodarius Williams, who I actually thought was like a 4th-round player, and they got him in the 6th round. So I think the Giants overall had a good draft. And even though they only had the three picks there, they did a nice job of getting some guys to come in and maybe fill out the rest of the end of their roster. So,
yeah, that would be Greedy Williams' older brother, actually. Older brother came out a little bit later than Greedy Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allen's boy, right?
Yeah.
Remember Allen?
Yeah. Yeah, Allen. That's Will Allen's voice. I remember that.
Love them, man.
Shout out to Allen if you're watching.
We heard about that guy every other week.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think they had a solid draft. Like you said, they had not as many picks. Everson Smith, who went to Northern Iowa. That's what you think. That's what you think.
Yeah.
Really good pick. I think that he can definitely help them out on the edge with a team that really needed some edge rushers. So that's great. Let's get to some comments, Ray. We got somebody LOLing us and saying yes. That would be. I'm not sure if that's Allen, but that would be hilarious if that is Allen. I would not be surprised. I'm going to actually check that right now. But Ray, while I'm checking that, give us another name.
Another team?
Yeah.
Well, the next team I have the Eagles. I think that the Eagles had a solid draft. We talked last week about how I would have flip-flopped in their second and third picks. But I think they had a really good draft.
That is Allen. That's hilarious.
It is Allen. Good for him. Hello, Allen.
What's going on, Allen?
Well, I got Zach Mcpherson, the cornerback from Texas. I like him. I think he's going to be a really good player on the special rounds, on the special teams. I like him a lot. My favorite pick of your draft is Kenneth Gamewell. I love Kenneth Gamewell, man. I think as a fifth-round player to come in there and do some things for you on a third down, I mean, I really like him, dude. I really do. Marlon Tupeluto, defensive tackle from USC, I has as a fourth-round grade on him, so that's a very nice pick. Tyron Jackson, the edge from Coastal Carolina, I had as a fifth-round pick. Nice pick also. Mm-hmm. Jacob Stevens from LSU. Jacoby Stevens from LSU, I thought was way more value than a sixth-round pick. And Patrick Johnson, the edge from Tulane, he's a little raw, but he's a nice athlete, right under 4'6", had a little over 35-inch vertical leap. So I think he's a developmental kid who can actually do some things for you down the road. So
definitely. Real quick, Allen says Trey Smith in the sixth-round pick. That was definitely a good pick, right? I mean,
it was
really a good pick. And he also said, I thought the Eagles had a top draft with an extra first next year. Yes, they have 2 first-round picks, could become a third-round pick if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps or go to the playoffs.
Well, that's really cool because you're going to need him to get a quarterback. So
if
no, not if, when.
See, the thing about me is that, like, you know, as much if you guys been following the RPO podcast, you understand that I'm not a huge Jalen Hurts fan. We talked about this last year before he even got drafted by the Eagles, but I'm very hopeful that he does good, because if he does good, we don't have to spend a whole bunch on a quarterback, and then we got 3 first-round picks that we can build a team up. That'd be even better. So I am rooting for the guy, but at the same time, like, I'm not overly optimistic.
I don't root against any of these kids. I hope they all fulfill their dreams, and he's going to be a nice, solid backup quarterback.
Correct. I agree. But let's get back to the picks. Ray, I told you this. I think when the draft ended, that the one pick that the Eagles drafted that I was like super excited and yelled about was Kenneth Gamewell. I mean, I was over the moon about that pick. I was like, that is such a non-Eagle-like kind of pick, but also a guy that can do a lot of the same things that Nyheim Hines from the Colts. You know, the Eagles' offensive coordinator is from the Colts, so he can do a lot of the same things. So I thought that was great. I like Jacoby Stevens. I have to see how he does as a linebacker for our team. That's going to be interesting, but he did play a lot of linebacker for LSU as well, so that can help. Tyron Jackson was a pick that I was like, that is such an Eagles pick. We inside the hatches in the interview Tyron Jackson when he was at Coastal Carolina, and I was like, this is such an Eagles type of guy because he got the same mold as Brandon Graham, and I said the same thing about Derek Barnett. When he was coming out, I was like, this is such an Eagles kind of guy, and then we drafted him too. So I think I got a little leg up on who the Eagles are about to draft each year. based on how they like their defensive end. So, but yeah, I thought the Eagles had a good solid draft. I wish they got a cornerback a little bit earlier, but we'll see. I believe this is Allen again. He says that Landon Dickerson, best center in years. I totally agree if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, if he can stay healthy,
Allen's still
that'd be cool.
Allen still loves Allen. You still love them Alabama guys, huh, man?
Oh yeah, he does. Let
me ask you, Allen. I want to ask Allen. I know I'm not directly talking to you, but in a roundabout way. Weren't you the one who used to kill me how bad Ryan Tannehill was and how great Tua was going to be? Now who's looking like? And I'm hoping you're right. Still, I am, but I'm not so sure, man. Go ahead.
Chuck Thomas, thank you for coming in the chat room. He says Eagles beat draft. They had greater success in the later rounds. I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. We'll see about some of the earlier picks. They're questionable. Again, it's injuries, but whatever. Alan says, yes, I do. I'm not sure what he was responding to that, but he did respond to the first one. He said, yeah, I was wrong. Man, he's admitting it. Good.
I love it. I love it. Alan, do one more thing. Say Ray was right.
He's UD size and not fast. Not sure what you mean by that, Alan. He's undersized. He's undersized and not fast.
Who's he talking about?
Oh, good question. Maybe Tyron. Driving. Oh, Alan, stop watching while you're driving. Be safe, man. Be safe. But let's get to our next team, Ray. Okay. While Alan's driving, Alan, be safe on the road, man. We love you, man. Oh, he's talking about Tua. He said Tua.
Dude, I still think Tua showed enough upside. I'm not giving up on the guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's on the Dolphins.
I'm just pointing out that honestly, like I always thought Tannehill was a good quarterback, and everybody tried killing me for years, telling me he wasn't that good. And I'm like, yeah, put enough players around him, he's fine. But
Well, let's get to our next one. I'm going to pick the next team this time, and I'm going to say the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens had a good draft, I think. Getting Tylan Wallace in the 4th round, which allowed people thought he was maybe a telling second, maybe 3rd round pick. Sean Wade, who was arguably one of the top cornerbacks last year, if they can work him in the system and get him up to speed like he should be, I think he could be a good player. And he won't have to be number 1 because they got a lot of good cornerbacks over there. So you got people that can show and teach him things as well. Devlin Hayes, the edge rusher, I think that he was a good rotational guy. And obviously another Michigan guy, I have to admit, Ben Mason. I thought Ben Mason was a great pick simply because he is a utility guy. Think Kyle Juszczyk with him. Like you can use him in the passing game, you can use him in a running game. He can pass protect. He can do a whole bunch of things, and he actually played linebacker coming into Michigan, so he has a lot of versatility to him. Ray, what do you think about the Ravens?
I had them as my next team on my list. I mean, I like Tylan Wallace a lot. I agree with you. I think Sean Wade, if nothing else, to come in and play slot receiver for you, would be a nickel and a dime player. Mm-hmm. Dalen Hayes from Notre Dame has a lot of versatility, can play a lot of defensive fronts, which he did in Notre Dame. And Ben Mason is just a scheme fit, perfect guy for Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always thought they needed a really good fullback for them, and he's the guy. Like he can do it all. Like when you put him in a game, you're not gonna know if they're gonna be in a run or pass. Trust me, because they're gonna pass it when he's in the game. And like I said, think Kyle Juszczyk with him because he's very used. He can use him in different schemes. I was actually very upset that they didn't use him enough in the senior bowl. But in their senior bowl practices, there was out there having catching balls. He was, getting out of the backfield. So I thought Ben Mason was really, really cool to see him go to the Ravens, who's such a heavy run team.
Yeah. Was there anybody on Michigan they used it correctly this year?
You're right, Ray. You are completely right. You are. All right, let's go to our next thing because
You got it, man. Go ahead.
we're about to talk about Michigan. We got all.
Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just saying. It seems like every week we talk about how Michigan we're not using guys in the roles they should have been used in. That's all.
No, seriously, because you see them come to the league and they play a lot better when they in the league. So
I think Ben Mason is just a perfect Baltimore Ravens fullback. I think that's
I agree.
a perfect fit.
I agree, 100%. Go ahead, Ray.
Well, my next one is Buffalo. I think Buffalo had a very good draft. I like all of their picks actually, but I'm going to start at round 5. They got Tommy Doyle, who's a guy who can play offensive tackle on both sides of the line. I think he's a guy who played at a smaller school, but I had him as a 4th-round talent. So to get him in the 5th round, to me, is a good move. They got Marcus Stevenson, wide receiver from Houston, in the 6th round. I had him as a 5th-round player. I like his versatility. I know he can help you out on special teams. I think Buffalo is looking for guys that can help him out as, again, fill out the end of their roster as far as wide receivers. DeMar Hamlin, I think, is a guy who is a scheme fit, perfect guy for Buffalo. Buffalo does not answer safeties to cover a lot. They want their safeties to play downhill and come in and help with the run game. I think he's going to be really good at that. Rashard Wildgoose is a cornerback from Wisconsin who I had, again, as a 4th-round player who went in round 6. I think that's a very good pick. And Jack Anderson, a versatile interior offensive lineman from Texas Tech. Again, I think Buffalo had a good draft. I think rounds in the day 3 picks, they had a really good draft, though. So
really, yeah, I like their front end of the draft. To be honest, and we talked about that in our last podcast. If you haven't seen that, you go back and watch that on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, make sure you like and subscribe. But like we said, I like their front end of the draft a lot. And to pair with their back end of the draft, I thought they had a very, very solid draft. And they did what they had to do with a lot of offensive and defensive alignment. Yeah. I mean, that's how you grow your team. So
honestly, I think everybody in Miami's division or the AFC East, I think they all had pretty good drafts, which is always a little discouraging. So,
Definitely. Chuck gives them a B. He said they never drafted a running back or a playmaker. I agree. Great first 2 draft. Wagos from Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a mafia name. Completely agree with that. That's a good point.
It is again a guy who's a scheme fit guy, and I do agree with what the gentleman said about a running back. But you know what? Honestly, if New England doesn't teach anybody the one thing, you just don't jump at running backs. If one falls you take them, but you don't move around to get that guy.
And you know what, Ray? Like, even though I was like on the train with them getting the running back from Alabama, which is slipping my mind right now. But whatever. I forgot his name.
Najee Harris.
There you go, Najee Harris. For them not to get Najee Harris, I'm not mad at them about that because I think that and like I said, I initially thought they could have got Najee Harris. But I think the fact that you just got 2 other running backs and I said this in one of our previous podcasts too, is that they just drafted a running back in the previous 2 drafts. I'm okay with them sticking with those guys and trusting that they'll be good because Zach Moss, he was injured a lot last year, so give him another year to come in and hopefully he stays healthy and give him another chance. And then you got Singletary, obviously, who was their number 1 running back last year. A little bit of dip down from year 1, but hey, sometimes you gotta go through those highs and lows to get them better. So I think that give those guys another chance, give them another year. You got 2 young, fresh running backs. Why diminish their talent? Trying to bring in a 3rd guy now. You get what I'm saying? So
I think like you said, I think Moss and Singletary are both young players that can develop and get better, obviously. And they brought in Matt Breida to be that 3rd down guy. I think it's a nice mix of backs. I think it is. I think they're still going to throw the ball 60% of the time anyway because their receivers and their quarterbacks were really good last year.
And who's going to be their fourth running back? You already know who that is. That's their quarterback.
Yeah, right. Again, you brought in Breida to be that third down guy, and you have two young guys in Devin Singletary and Zach Mossad that are guys that can improve. And if Myles Gaskin didn't prove anything to anybody, after guys their second and third years, they get better. So why not give it a shot and see what happens? And then if you got to make a move for a running back, maybe do it next year. I mean, I think in one of our mock drafts we had them taking Najee Harris with the 30th pick. But again, didn't fall to them. So don't go crazy. Improve your roster, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Chuck Thomas says, but it hurts them playoffs. Why sign a 30-year-old wide receiver, Emmanuel Sanders? Emmanuel Sanders got a lot left in his tank. 2, he's not going to be the number 1 receiver. And 3, I think they got guys there. I mean, Cole Beasley's still there, right?
He is.
Yeah. So he's still
they got Stephon Diggs. They have Cole Beasley. They have the guys escaping me who played the slot for them last year or something too.
Yeah, the rookie from last year.
Yeah, he's
going to emerge into a good receiver.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to, can the offensive line run block a little bit better, and is their quarterback going to? Zach Allen was great last year. Can he duplicate that or get better? If he does, they may go to Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. Buffalo, Colts, and Browns drafted to beat the Chiefs. Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Well, I always hear from people. I agree with that, and also I get in debates with people when they tell me you have to draft to win your division. You can, but then you're always playing from behind. You draft to win a Super Bowl. Okay.
I agree. 100%. Let's get to our next team, Ray. I'm going to pick this team, and this team actually kind of surprised me after I look back at it, and I'm going to say the Detroit Lions. I like the Detroit Lions draft. In the fourth round, they got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Fourth round, they got Derrick Brown, the linebacker. And the seventh round, they got Jamar Jefferson. They had some great picks in the beginning of the draft as well and stole some picks from other teams. I think the Lions had a very solid draft. I mean, surprisingly, but I think they did. What do you think, Ray?
I think that I like their draft. I didn't put them up there because I'm not big on Derek Barnes. I don't think he's that athletic. I think he's a solid player. I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's a good slot player for them. And I like Jamar Jefferson. I think he's has some versatility. They only had the 3 picks. I mean, it was solid. I didn't have them as one of my top ones. But, again, I went through the NFC first, and I came up with like 4 really good teams in the NFC, I thought. So I kind of was like, you know what? I don't want to give all NFC teams. Let me look through over the AFC and see if I can find a couple teams there too. So
yeah, Alan said that he loved the Lions draft. I agree with you, sir. Chuck says Lions get an A. I thought they had the best draft in all of the NFC. Oh, the NFC teams. Ooh, that's tough to say. I think they had a really good draft. I don't know. I had to relook at that, Chuck. And Alan said team.
Chuck, you can listen next week because we'll be going over the whole draft again next week. Yeah. Well, at least what teams we thought had the best drafts. So.
Correct. We will do that. We're strictly trying to stay on day 3 right now. But, yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about day 3 without looking at the entire draft. But we will get to our final grades next week as well. But, yeah, I think I like their picks, Ray. I really do. Ray, you give us another team.
Well, this is my last team I'm going to give you. I have Cleveland. I think Cleveland the last few years, they have really added a lot of talent to their roster. And they did it again this year, man. They had a really solid draft this year. But James Hudson, offensive tackle from Cincinnati, Tommy Togai, defensive tackle from Ohio State, and they took guys from nice schools too. Tony Fields, linebacker from West Virginia. These are all guys that were taken either right around or probably above where they were drafted. I had James Hudson's end of second round, beginning of the third round. And to get him in the fourth round, I thought was a really good player. And this is one of my guys. I like Rashard LeCounte, safety from Georgia. I think he's a guy who needs to get a little bit stronger, but I think he's going to be a guy who can play for you. And I love Demetri Felton as a special teams guy and a guy who can do some stuff as a slot receiver, maybe part-time running back at UCLA. I think Cleveland had a really good draft, and I thought their day 3 picks were as good as anybody.
I agree. I think that Rashard LeCount, I had liked him coming out of Georgia. He ran a little slow at his pro day, so that bumped him down a lot. But I think he's definitely a talented guy that has some flashes and things like that.
I think he's maybe that guy where that hybrid linebacker safety type guy for you, and that's going to be a new way.
I think he needs to get a little bit bigger because he's only
he does. He absolutely does. He does. He needs to get stronger and needs to be able to take on blocks a little bit better. But I think he's a good football player. And Georgia had a pretty good defense last year, and he made a lot of plays for them. So,
Definitely did. And then Demetri Felton, watching him at the Senior Bowl, and this guy was everywhere. Played running back, played wide receiver. He was very versatile. Sorry. At 5'9", a small guy that can just get in and out of his breaks and things like that. You could, like Ray said, you can, if you want to put him at running back, you can make him a wide receiver. You can do jet sweeps with the guy. I think he is one of those electric players that really don't have a true position. You can just play him wherever. Chuck says, A+, sorry, but they were my number 1 team in the draft. No surprise, as many analysts did.
Who's that, Cleveland?
I believe so.
Yeah, I thought Cleveland had a really good draft. And they've, again, the last few years, and they finally have the right coach in there, it looks like. And I think they're going to be one of them teams that trajectory is going to be going upward, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
I honestly would not be surprised.
They're a sleeper team just because people don't want to recognize
the
real team yet,
I think Baltimore is still the best team in the division. I think they are. I would not be surprised to see Cleveland take over that second spot ahead of Pittsburgh this year, to be honest with you.
Definitely. Cornerback and linebacker, first 2 picks, a.k.a. Winfield and White. Browns following the Bucs defense that beat the Chiefs. I agree. Because they did get cornerback and linebacker in the first 2 rounds. So, yeah, you're right.
The problem with Cleveland is they're a running team. And if you can run the ball enough to keep the ball out of Kansas City's hands, you could beat them.
That's true.
But if they make you one-dimensional where you have to throw the ball, you have a hard time beating Kansas City if you try to get the game with them.
But at the same time, I feel like, their coach really understood that Baker Mayfield is not the greatest quarterback, and I think he did the opposite of what the Eagles did. I personally agree. I personally think he did what the Eagles fans been crying about last year, was that we was not running the ball enough to protect Carson Wentz. I think that what's his name? I want to say Sarkisian. It's not Sarkisian. But the Browns, the Browns coach Stefanski, yeah. He understands that. All right, Baker Mayfield's haven't been playing that well in second year. Let me start running the ball more, get him off of play action, and get him some good receivers that he can get open. So I agree.
I'll tell you, if you have
Baker, only question is if they had Rodgers automatic both favorites. I think Baker is probably one of the biggest questions in there, and obviously help at the cornerback position. But we'll see. We see how it goes.
I think I agree with you, though. I think a quarterback's best friend is a good running game, and to throw off of that run game is if I was a quarterback, I would want them safeties squeezing up a little bit so I could throw over top of them. And he's got solid receivers in Cleveland. Again, I think Cleveland's going to be one of them teams that are going to be a team that's going to progressively get a little bit better every year.
Definitely. All right, and I'm going to give my last team, and then I'm going to let Ray finish off with his teams that he did not like the teams that he liked the least. I'm going to say this team because this team looked like there was a fire sale as a team. There was right there where the Eagles was looking at a point where it's just like, what's going on with this organization? They got a new GM. Everybody thought, oh, they don't have no first round pick. This is going to be a terrible team. I think for all that was going on, they had a very, very good draft, especially for the circumstance that went down. And I'm talking about the Houston Texans. I mean, they had a really good day 2 picks, but I really like Ben Bevan Jordan, the tight end from Florida. I thought that he was a really good pass catcher out of there. Garrett Willow from Ohio State, linebacker, and Roy Lopez. I mean, I thought they really had a good draft, especially considering what was going on in the organization and things like that. I think they really solidified and really helped themselves out, and with the limited amount of picks they had, right?
I liked their day. I actually thought they had a solid draft considering they only had 5 picks.
Correct.
I think they had a pretty solid draft. I mean, they're still they're a long way from being a complete team still. I mean, honestly, they probably should have traded the quarterback when they had the chance 2-3 months ago. And now that they haven't, I mean, they're going to trade him. Especially if he doesn't, and I don't want to get into what he was accused of. I'm not going to talk about that at all. But the kid's a talented player. And eventually this stuff's going to work itself out one way or the other. And I hate to say he's probably going to pay some people and get out of trouble mostly. But after that happens, they move on from him. It'll give them some draft capital because they're fighting from behind because let's face it, they traded all their draft capital to Miami. So they're having a hard time with that now because now they don't have a good team. They have the best player doesn't want to play there anymore. And they have a coach who's never been a head coach. He's 60 years old. So I don't know what Houston's doing as a team, but I think they had a good solid. They added some players that can help them right now. No defense is exactly right.
I agree with what you're saying, but you got to consider the amount of picks they had. So, like, I know you got to take into account, like, oh, they traded a pick, so blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I think considering they only had 5 picks, they're really solid, really good 5 picks. And I didn't expect the Houston to have a good draft, especially when you have a new GM that's coming into all that headache and drama with the quarterback, with, the roster, everything that, O'Brien left the team with. I just thought that it was a solid draft for me, in my opinion.
No, it was. They had 5 picks. Everybody they draft, I like the guys they drafted. It's just a shame that there's such a dark cloud because of the quarterback right now, So
Definitely. All right, let's hear your least favorite drafts, Ray.
Well, I'm going to give you like a few teams. I thought the Saints had a horrible draft. I think that day 3
that was rough.
No, they had a horrible draft. I mean, I think we're going to get into how bad I think their whole draft was next week. But I'm a Notre Dame fan. Well, I'm a Notre Dame fan, man. You took Ian Book in the 4th round. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, dude. This is why we always say owners should stay out of the way and let the GMs do their job. And I agree with that 100%. But if I was the owner of the team, I'd be like, yo, did you watch Notre Dame play this year? You took him in the 4th round?
Yeah, that was.
Are you crazy? I mean, and they took Landon Young, who I think is a solid player, has some upside, but really I had him as not a draftable player. But again, you see what you want to see. And Quan Baker, a wide receiver from South Alabama, is an okay player. But again, I just thought overall you had a horrible draft, and day 3 was not really better than what you did in day 1 and 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. Who else you had, Ray?
All right, I need to get a drink of water here. Well, my number 2 team, I have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is another one. They had a horrible draft. Good thing they won the Super Bowl because they had a horrible draft. What's that?
A lot of people like that draft.
A lot of people would be wrong, but that's okay. That's okay. Dalen Jordan, I think, is a solid player with some upside. That is the only guy in the 3rd round they took that I even like a little bit. I mean, in day 3.
Day 3.
Right. They took Darden, who I like. Okay, I still had him as a project, as a 6th-round player, but he's a solid player. Then they took KJ Britt, who's a slow linebacker. and you know how much I love slow linebackers. Okay. Chris Wilcox, a cornerback from BYU. I think he has some upside. He's really small, but he does have good speed. But I still think that he's not that great of a pick. And Grant Stewart, the linebacker from Houston, again, a slow linebacker. What are you doing?
They went definitely went slower with the linebackers. I like Kenny Britt because he is really good against the run, but you gotta remember this is a different league right now, so that is an issue. Yeah. But it is a 5th round pick. You take a chance on a guy like that sometimes, maybe depending on the situation. I like Kenny Britt.
I not can he play some 2-down linebacker for me? Probably he can, but he's not going to do anything on special teams.
Yeah.
Well, what do you? Again, I don't know, dude. Like,
not that Grant Stewart. I like Grant Stewart because that guy hustles. Like that guy is he's all effort guy. He's a straight all effort guy. I see him in special teams, right?
I do see him as a better special teams player, but he's still slow. So I have a thing, dude. And with the way the linebackers need to cover in this NFL, dude, if you run slower than a 4.7, you're out. You're out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the times that is the way this is right now, it is very hard. Chuck says, Bucks first pick. Bucks first pick fit system will replace JPP.
I completely disagree with that. He's a good, solid, tall guy. That's the only good thing I can say about Joe Tryon. But we'll get to that next week.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Right, you got another team?
I have the Washington football team. I think Washington had a good, solid draft. I like John Bates, a tight end. I didn't have him going that high, but I think he's a versatile kid who will help them out. I like Dark Foster from Cincinnati. I thought
you were doing teams you didn't like, right?
This is a team I'm sorry, teams I didn't like.
I was going to say, right, they had a pretty good team.
I said I like John Bates, but I didn't have him being taken that early.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's why, again, I like Dark Foster, but I had him as a 6th round, 7th round pick, and they took him at the beginning of the 5th round. Yeah. Anybody who takes a long snapper in the 6th round should be fired. But that's, again, it's just me.
We said, one thing we said earlier, and I'm a Michigan fan, and Cheeseman being drafted was a shocker to me. It's a complete shocker. But go ahead.
Again, William Bradley King, edge player from Baylor. I had him as an undraftable player.
Yeah. I think that's where Shaka Toney should have been, actually.
I agree with you. I think Shaka Toney should have been taken there. I agree with that. But they took Shaka Toney, who I think will be a solid player. But he's really the only day 3 pick that I thought he kind of went where he should have went.
I like Dax Millen. I think he can be somebody that, smaller receiver kind of guy. He's 6'1". He's a little thin, though, but I think he's one of those possession receivers that you can maybe use in there.
If he turns out to be a good slot player, okay, but that's really I don't see any real upside besides that.
Oh yeah.
He didn't run that fast. He's not that big. He's kind of thin,
Pittsburgh took a punter. Going to be a long season. Yeah.
It's going to be a long season for the Steelers, especially after Roethlisberger craps the bet again, and you realize they need another quarterback. Yeah.
They dropped. I think they should have got a replacement for him, to be honest. But
I agree with you.
That's just me. That's for another podcast. You got one more team, Ray?
I have the Colts. Again, I didn't think the Colts had a great draft. I thought that they did okay with Kwity Paye in their 1st round pick. But after that, it just got worse. I mean, Kalen Granson from SMU was a solid football player, but they took him the beginning of the 4th round. I had him as a 5th round player. Sean Davis, who's a slow safety from Florida. I'm not a big fan of him. Sam Ellinger, who you know how I feel about Sam. 1 week. Sam Ellinger, I think as an NFL player, he has some talent, but I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. So, and I'm sure they took him with the idea he's probably going to be a backup quarterback someday, and I just don't see it. Michael Strahan, the wide receiver from Charlotte, West Virginia, I think he's a solid player. I think he's nothing special. And Will Fry, the offensive guard from Penn State, is not a draftable player. So,
Chuck said C plus. At least they signed Eric Fisher after the draft. That don't count, sir. That do not count.
No, that has nothing to do with the draft. And again, I like the Colts. I think they're a well-coached team. I think they're a talented enough roster to make some noise in the AFC. I just don't think that they took advantage of some good spots to get some better players. That's all.
He says wide receiver Mike Strat. How you say it? His last name?
Yeah.
Stratton.
Yeah.
Could be still in Frank's system. We'll see. He's not a big body guy, so they're stacking up on our big body receivers. We'll see because we said that about Johnson too, the guy they took from the Eagles, wide receiver. He did absolutely nothing for them so far, and Frank Reich loved him. Like he was talking about him like he was a first round pick. So we'll see, but I don't see it, to be honest.
Neither do I. I just don't see it.
Definitely. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up for the day 3 picks, man. And I want to thank everybody that was in the chat room today. It's an incredible podcast. We had a lot of fun. Shout out to Chuck. Shout out to Alan. Alan, please make sure you come back on another time and get some comments and things like that. And guys, if you're just coming in and watching this, or you're watching this later on, please make sure you go on our YouTube channel and make sure that you like and subscribe to that, because anything that you haven't seen on this podcast, or you might reference stuff from our old podcast, is all on our YouTube channel. So just go on YouTube, search Inside the Hashes. You can find all our RPO podcasts on there, including other things as far as gaming, interviews, things like that. A lot of players that we talked about today, we interviewed them. So you go check that out. And also you can check out the audio of a lot of players that we interviewed as well on our platforms, on our podcast platforms. That's a tongue tie right there. Podcast platforms on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that. Anchor, you can find all that on there. Search Inside the Hashes, and you can find all our content right on there. Ray, thank you so much for getting on again. We appreciate it. And next week we're going to be talking about total grades for all these teams. Can't wait to do that. And then we're going to get back into some college football as well. So I'm your humble host, Jerome Jones. This is my man, Ray Roberts. Thank you guys so much for getting on with us, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good one.